Hey everybody, it's Tracy from Downward Dog Rising. I'm here to give you a stretch routine tonight for runners or cyclists, someone who does endurance training, so your hamstrings, your hips, your glutes, your quads get tight, your calves even, maybe your feet cramp. So if that sounds good to you, let's do it. Come on. So, you could use a belt. I finally got myself a yoga strap. I was using my belt for my jeans. So whatever you have, use it. It doesn't matter. It could be belt for your pants or it could be a yoga strap. And we're going to do a 3-way stretch. And let's start off just lying down on our mat. And then we're going to do, I think it's Padagustasana, A, B, and C. It's been a while since I said it by that name, but I'm going to call it 3-way stretch. So you're going to come down to your mat, and basically your hips are centered. Shoulder, I call it shoulders, hip socket, center of knee joint over second toes. So you just go straight down the line. You're going to bring your head to the mat. Most importantly, these 2 hip points, your anterior, superior, iliac spine, that's your 2 hip points. They stay aligned side by side. You're going to take one foot up into the air. So whatever you do, I want you to keep your pelvis aligned. So you're not going to twist either hip higher than the other. And then so your shoulders don't get tired from holding your arms up in the air like that, what you could do is just bring your elbows straight to the mat, feel chest open, collarbones wide, relax shoulders, and then I just want you to lower your leg and then lift your leg into the air like that. If you have low back issues, keep this knee bent to help with your pelvic stability. And if you don't have any low back issues, you're not worried about making your back be unstable, you would just take your leg and straighten it down onto the mat. So basically you're going to reach your leg down, and then you're going to lift your leg up, hip points to sky. Reach away from center, lift back up. I'm going to call this an active isolated stretch because you're going through dynamic motion, range of motion. 5, my other leg, kneecap is up. I'm pressing my heel into the mat. 4, just stretch the back of that leg out. 3, 2 more. And last one. Now you're just going to hold, so you feel the stretch back here. There's a muscle back here, popliteus. Sometimes it could get sore behind the knee. Chest is open, collarbones wide. Now just stay here and breathe into it. When you feel it give, go a little deeper. Two more inhales. And gently release. Good. Okay, now your 2 hip bones straight up to the sky. I'm just going to move this way a little bit so I have room to stretch out my leg. You could stay where you are, right on the middle of your mat. And then I'm going to keep my knee bent because of space. I just need to do my knee bent. You could have this leg straight. Now, important, avoid rotating your pelvis that way. If you have your left leg in the strap, You're going to avoid rotating your entire pelvis to the left. You don't want that. Keep a straight line from hip bone to hip bone. Remember, we're doing the active isolated stretch first. Keeping hips to sky. Relax shoulders into mat. Two more. Two hip points face directly above you to the sky. I'm going to extend for this part. Okay, now draw a straight line across those two hip bones. And then wherever you can stretch it to, you're going to stretch that leg out to the side without rolling your pelvis. And just stay here and breathe. Head lengthens away from tailbone, so your spine is elongated into the mat. Really inhale as you feel your spine elongate. One more inhale. And gently release. So now, okay, the next one's important too. I don't want your hip to rotate or hike up. Make sure that doesn't happen where your knee internally rotates, your whole thigh bone we don't want our whole thigh bone, femur bone rotating in with our knee rotating in, going all the way to the ankle. You want to feel like the top part of the thigh, inner thigh wraps into outer thigh. Your two hip points are still aligned. Now, when you go to the bottom of your ribs over here, there's soft tissue before that hip bone begins. You can even place your thumb on your ribs, your index finger, your middle finger on your hip bone, and create a space. Create a nice gap in between your rib cage and your hip. And just keep that space open. And then keep the space open and actually keep the back of your pelvis on the mat as you reach your leg across. Because we do a spinal twist, but this is not a spinal twist. I want you to keep your pelvis grounded on the mat. This is great for you if you do have herniated disc and you don't want to rotate your spine. Know the difference. That hip stays on the mat. Back of pelvis stays secure. Create length on the front of your hip, between your hip and your rib cage. And you're just lengthening across. So this one's C, lengthen across. Our sidelines remain lengthened and open. So ideally, neither of your hips hikes up. Breathing in, exhale. Create that space. Knee is over second toe, so you're not twisting your femur bone anywhere. That's your thigh bone. Two more. Reach across. Create that length. One more. So the IT band, iliotibial tract, you might get a deep stretch up here, running down the side. We have it come all the way down the lower part where the shin is and the calf, because we have the tibia on the bottom part of the leg. What I want you to think of, if you're okay with not lifting your hip off the mat, and you could reach across, you ground this shoulder down So the shoulder stays down, chest is open. If you want to deepen it, you're going to start to rotate a little bit down and in. You might feel a little tweak at the top here, but I'm having you go a little deeper into the lower part of the leg by doing that. If that doesn't suit you, keep the leg, you don't have to rotate the ankle, keep straight. But now see if you could go a little bit towards your opposite shoulder without lifting your pelvis off the mat. Just going a little deeper. And just stay here and breathe. I'm really into the top here. You can feel it all the way down. Ground that shoulder into the mat. One more deep inhale here. And gently release. Awesome. So we're going to point, flex. I'm going to bend my knee a little bit. Point and flex is this kind of motion. Point and flex for 5. Heel to sky. Point and flex for 4. 3. Stretch that ankle. That heel. Achilles tendon. 2. Last one. All right. Take your other foot off the mat. Place it into the strap. And again, if you want your pelvis to stay stable, keep this leg bent. If it doesn't bother your back, you can extend that leg, kneecap to sky, heel pushes floor away, stretch down, and then just lift straight up. You have 3 different hamstring muscles. You have a medial, middle, and a lateral. Yeah, 2 or more lateral. 4 more, stretch it out. So your pelvis is still neutral. Those 2 hip bones reach the sky. 2 more. And last one. Wherever you can hold that leg in without unleveling your hips, do so. And just breathe. You feel your spine is lengthened. One more deep inhale here. Make sure hip bones are straight across. Okay, I'm going to move this way now so I have a little more space. Kneecap up, heel presses floor away. So this heel is just pressed straight down into your mat. And now you're going to go this way to your side. Notice this opposite hip doesn't roll off the mat. Adductor, inner thigh group. Let's see, adductor magnus, adductor longus, adductor brevis. There's gracilis, sartorius. It's been a while. Trying to remember the muscles. I loved anatomy class. And again, your pelvis faces straight up. You're not rotating your hips. When you cheat, your hips rotate off the mat. You get a deeper stretch. But when you cheat, you're not doing yourself any favors when it comes to pelvic stability and lumbar stability. So that's why it's important not to like rotate your hips off the mat. We're going to stay here and hold it. If you had more flexibility in your hips and pelvis, stay on the mat. You could go at a higher angle if you wanted, stretching away from center. You could adjust your arm, your shoulder, keep shoulders on mat. And breathe. Ideally, we want to balance the muscles of our hips, because if any get out of balance, it can throw our pelvis out of alignment. Different things could happen. Our SI joint can come out. Our pelvis can have an upslip, not be level. That wreaks havoc on our back. It goes all the way down to the knee, to the foot. Stay here and breathe. Just melt into the stretch. If that's possible. One more time, breathing in. And gently exhale. Again, if you need more pelvic stability, bring this leg up like that so your hips have a better chance of staying stable and still. And then our opposite hip. Okay, if it goes out of alignment, the leg hikes up, the leg rotates from the top. We're just going to keep knee over second toe for right now. Create length. Maybe your thumb goes to the bottom of your rib cage. Maybe your index finger or your middle finger go down to your hip bone. I want you to keep a gap in between there open so you don't hike that hip up. And you're just reaching across middle line. Your shoulders are down and back on mat. And you might notice something. This side's tighter. I'm not rotating off the mat. I'm keeping my alignment. I hope you don't hear my stomach gurgling. I just had a piece of, should I tell you? Chocolate pie. It was like chocolate cream pie with a nice cookie crust, chocolate cookie crust, and then whipped cream. I'm a vegetarian, but not a vegan. I felt like something sweet, so I bought a single slice. So if you want to deepen the stretch, you could start to pull the opposite shoulder. I'm making sure I don't lose that gap between my rib and my hip. The back of my pelvis is still down on the mat. So I don't unlevel the hips. If you wanted to go deeper down, you can kind of get a little rotation at that ankle. And you could feel it more on the lateral. My hip is still on the mat. Breathing in. Keeping shoulders down and back on the mat. If that little variation was too intense, release it. One more deep inhale here. And gently release. Come back center. Okay. So now just slide your foot out of the strap. Happy baby. We're going to do that next. Just hug knees into chest for a second. And then just kind of rock side to side if that's comfortable on your back. So place your feet on the mat. Make sure your shoulders, hips, knees, ankles are aligned. I want you to do a bridge. We're going to lift pelvis. This part of the back stays lengthened. Hips to sky, knees over second toes. Chest is open. And then just lower your pelvis straight down to the mat. Tighten your core to your back. And then lower the pelvis straight down. 4. Chest is open. Reach the tailbone away from the breastbone. Create length. 3. Chest is open. Straight back down. 2 more. This will help your low back. If you have any back pain, tighten the core to your spine. Down. 1 more. Create openness through front of hip joints. And gently bring pelvis down. Okay, so your tailbone, your sacrum is centered on the mat. You're going to knee fold in. Align this knee with your ankle. You're going to try to drop your knee down towards the floor. You're going to knee fold the other leg in. Shin is going to line up knee, ankle. You can reach the outer edge of your feet. Grab with your palms. And then you just gently draw those knees out. So my back, my tailbone, sacrum's on the mat. My pelvis is secure. Tailbone's heavy. Breathe into that low back area. You'll feel how your back drops deeper into the mat. Breathe in to the center of your low back and just let it drop deeper into the mat. If you want extra support, you can draw core muscles tight to back. Ananda Balasana, happy baby. It's a great hip opener. If you want, gently rock side to side. Make sure your back's okay with it. Come back. Allow the low back and pelvis to sink deeper into the mat underneath you. Okay, we're going to do one more deep inhale. And gently exhale. All right. Okay, next, I want you to do Supta Baddha Konasana. You're going to bring the soles of your feet together. Heels are going to be a little bit further out from your pelvis. They're not going to directly be all the way in. And then I just want you to think of the knees floating in the air. Knees are floating. Spine is long. You're going to feel the hip crease right in here, that hip crease. If you want, you can have palms facing the sky. Relax the collarbones wider. Just let gravity assist you right now. Let your spine drop into the mat. Allow your sternum, your breastbone. When we truly get the air out of our lungs, we all have a residual volume of air left over in our lungs. As humans, we're always going to have a little bit of air left over in our lungs. So when you're exhaling to get more of the air to exit out of our lungs, what I want you to do is place one hand on your sternum, your breastbone. Feel how your ribs expand laterally to the sides. Feel how the back of the ribs widen into the mat underneath your body. You might even feel your belly rise. Then I want you to soften through your sternum. When you fully release through your sternum, you're going to feel the opposite side, your thoracic spine vertebra in between your two shoulder blades. You're going to feel that area elongate into the mat. So take hand across breastbone or sternum. And then you're going to blow the air out. You're going to feel how your hand moves down. When you get more and more air out of the lungs, you're going to help lengthen your spine even more into the mat, and the area between your shoulder blades will get a little bit more space in there. Let's do one more. Okay, so we're going to come out of Supta Baddha Konasana. Just draw your knees together. Come up into tabletop where the knees go over your hips. 5 hip openers. Knees circle apart. Knees come back together. 3. Pelvis is grounded, secure. 2. Reverse. Inhale, exhale. Drive your femur bone, this thigh bone, deeper down into your hip socket, into that acetabulum. 2, last one. Good. All right. So that'll help the hip flexors too. So next, what I want you to do, turn to one side. I don't want you to just jump up and then see stars, because orthostatic hypotension is when your blood pressure changes like that super fast. It changes according to if you're on your back, on your sitting, standing. All right, let's do something else. Go ahead and come into all fours. Curl toes under. Lift up your knees. Go ahead and press into a downward dog. So your spine is long. Lengthen forward as you lengthen backwards through those legs. If your heels don't touch, no worry. Lengthen your breastbone forward and through. Inhale, exhale. Energy flows up and down the spine, out of your center, down to the legs, into the earth, out of your center, up the spine, to top of head, even down into the hands. Oppositional flow of energy. Gently, we're going to take our right leg, we're going to bend the knee, and we're going to come into a swan. So you're going to rotate hips so they face straight ahead. More advanced, this leg would be in a straight horizontal line, parallel. You don't have to do that. Mine's a little slanted, and my knee has healed. When it wasn't healed, it would look like it was more advanced, actually, because it wouldn't move beyond that point. So I'm just going to have you hold. If you need to realign pelvis, do so. And you're just going to have your hips be straight ahead. Stay here and breathe. So this is also known as a pigeon. And there's a version where we really go deep into our quad. So I'm going to give that version to you, which is a mermaid or Ekapada Raj Kapotasana. So take your belt. We'll do this on each side. If the video runs out, I'm going to label it part 1 and part 2. So you'll just have to click on part 2 to finish the other leg. Okay, I'm going to slide forward so you can see. My hips are still straight. And I have a feeling I might cramp. I ran today, but it's okay. If I cramp, I cramp. What I want you to do, before I hurt my knee, I used to take my leg and rest it in my elbow, but I'm far from there at this point. But I'll start over. I'll get there again. We're going to slip our yoga strap on our back foot. So it's around my foot. I'll go back to where I was. with the hips aligned. And basically, I'm going to rotate hips forward. I'm going to start off reaching my arm over the top of my head. So before we had our back leg straight out behind us with our kneecap facing down. Breathing in, breathing out as my stomach gurgles. Breathing in, breathing out. Now, I might turn and face you. So my hips are straight. And then what I'm going to have you do, I'm going to slide back a little more. Just trying to balance out my pelvis. You can have your elbows point straight, see, like that. I'm trying to get my hip to pull forward. There we go. So you're going to point your two hip bones forward. You're grounded into your sits bones, rising up from the sits bones that you're sitting on all the way up to the spine, to the top of your head. Breathing in and breathing out, giving support to that foot and that leg. Couple more deep inhales here. Really lengthen up your spine. Your quads and hip flexors will thank you. Keep where you're at. Sideways, this is what's happening. Sideways, this is what I was doing. Rotating my hip forward, rising up through the spine. So I don't hurt the low back. I keep the length. Tailbone long. One more deep inhale. One more deep inhale. And then slowly, you're going to release foot from strap. I'm going to have you just do a little counter from there. Bring your feet straight in front of you. We're going to do half a shoelace. So I'm just listening to my body, the wisdom of my body, and whatever it felt like doing after that pose, I just immediately went into this one, which is half a shoelace. Having the leg be rotated back up behind, it felt natural that it would want to do this now. So basically, your sits bones are on the mat. You're going to cross that knee over the bottom one. Modified. If this was too much on your hips to have the knee over the knee, you would have